Hey everyone, Eric here, and I'm not sure I'll be able to attend the entire meeting tomorrow. I do think it's a great opportunity to look at the online instructor certification training. So I really appreciate your efforts, John, to get us together to look at things. So I'll offer my input here. I am not sure I'll be participating in the future. I'm ending my coaching term. I think there's a tiny possibility that I might be able to continue. I really love being a part of this online instructor certification training. um, I'll be able to know more in a few weeks. So I think it's unlikely but possible. So I think John has already said you should plan on moving on without me. Um, First of all, the surveys. I think everyone should be pretty happy. It looked like there was one person who didn't really like the course just based on overall, or had issues with the course. Everyone else seemed to enjoy it and get meaning out of it. Um, I thought it was interesting. I was going to focus on why people took the course, and it looks like pretty much everyone is taking the course because they want to teach online, they want to teach hybrids, and I assume the people who say it's required um, are probably being asked to do it as required because their department chair or lead wants them to teach online or teach hybrids. Um, so with that in mind, I guess I'll just throw out the idea that this course, um, if we really intended it only for people who were planning on teaching online or hybrid courses, what would the course look like as opposed to a course that we just kind of let anybody take it who is interested in online learning? So I'll just throw that out there. I don't know what the answer is, but it looks like our audience really is prospective online and hybrid teachers, more or less. Um, I thought I'd also point out this slide, which is troubling. Um, how many hours did you spend each week? If we're only paying people for 4 to 4.5 hours, this is a problem, with the exception of one person who was in the ballpark. Everyone else, I mean, some people, I guess, you know, this person says it would more than they said, but I think we were pretty clear that it was going to take 4 to 4.5 hours a week. 5 to 6 is close. Over 10, this person's either doing something wrong or I'm not sure. So 6 to 9 hours, 7 hours. The reason I think this is important is, and I'll talk about week two, this issue of time management is really critical for me as a coach. And I think it definitely impacts instructor satisfaction and morale. And if those of us who are designing and teaching the online instructor certification training, if our estimate of how long it takes instructors who are students to complete the work, if I know, John, you asked us in the fall to really try to squeeze down what we were asking people to do and make it manageable in 4.5 hours a week. I really, really worked on that. In fact, I'll show you, I actually had people keep track of how much time they spent during the week. So I guess my point is, I think this is critical. If we are training people to teach online and we are unable to manage our workloads and develop a class that is manageable for instructors, I'm not sure we're setting them up well to go into design and teach their own online classes, um, to create a class that has a manageable workload for themselves and for their students. So I think this is very interesting and troubling and needs to be looked at more. So either our expectations are too high, or we're so fast at typing and we're so comfortable with D2L that things that we think would take an hour really take 2 hours, or students are overestimating how much time they're taking. And so I don't know, I think it's worth looking into. So I did week two in the fall. I had been doing week three, so I did week two. And week two, I really called it engagement and community and online learning. And I focused, so I did some screencasts, and I focused on this issue of dialing in teaching and learning. I spent a lot of time talking about discussions and, reflections on course quality, because of course our course quality guidelines deal with these issues of instructor engagement and developing community. So, I mean, that's really how I focused my week, and I'll show you, really what we did is I had students watch some screencasts, and that kind of laid out in general this issue of instructor-directed teaching and online classes, and asked people to think about when or if they develop an online class, what do they think the teaching would be, right? I was really trying to focus in on that issue of the instructor-directed teaching. So we had a discussion on community and online classes. Let's see if I can remember exactly what I did here. So why is community important? Designing and fostering community. And, so I had students do some reading, but this was not the main focus of my week, mainly because in my own estimation, I don't think talking about community in and of itself is that fruitful, because at least my look at master teacher nominations tells me that students, it's not the thing that they love the most about online classes, is that student-to-student community. My sense is that it's the community that the instructor creates through instructor presence and engagement. And so, because that's my view based on my action research, I really spent the time in week 2 focused on that notion. So this dialing in teaching and learning is really the main thing that we spend time talking about, which is, how will you make sure to design teaching into your course? How will students experience 3 hours of teaching? How will we capture the teachable moment? How do we think about time management? How much time have you spent in this course? And so, so this was a very fruitful discussion. So, I guess if I were talking about what I would do, I might actually spend less time on community and spend all of my time in week 2 focused on time management, pedagogical design, what counts as online teaching, and maybe use the fact that the participants in the OLIC as students see the other side of that picture, right? That where we estimate how much time things will take, students take more. So briefly, I know many of you have heard me talk about this stuff, but according to the federal credit hour definition and our accrediting agency, the Higher Learning Commission, all of our classes are supposed to have instructor-directed teaching. And so for this typical 3-credit class, the Higher Learning Commission and the federal credit hour definition, and the reason federal credit hour definition is important is we give federal financial aid, so we are beholden to the federal credit hour definition, right? So we're talking about this in the online teaching workshop, and people are really struggling with this notion of what counts as instructor-directed teaching. I guess my point is, online courses are going to be held to a higher level of scrutiny at our accreditation. We may be asked to demonstrate that our classes have instructor-directed teaching. What is it? I don't know. Higher Learning Commission doesn't define it. They just say that's what happens in face-to-face classes. And whatever is happening in face-to-face classes needs to be happening online and in hybrids. So I'm going to take 2 minutes and tell you what I mean. So here's this kind of traditional 3-credit class. And based on the federal credit hour definition, this class per week should have 3 hours of instructor-directed teaching. It should have 6 to 9 hours, right? 2 or more hours per credit hour per week of independent student work. And then, of course, front range faculty are paid for 6 hours of work per week per course, right? So for a 3-credit course, an instructor is paid for 6 hours of work. Full-time faculty and adjunct, right? That's how front range calculates. So 3 hours of that is in class, in a face-to-face class, and 3 hours of that is outside of class work. So, this model is the standard for face-to-face classes. And I will also add that this part here is the part that you would never give up as a face-to-face teacher. You might give up grading, you might give up prepping, but you're not going to give up going to class, because students and faculty know that that is the critical, right? We think that's the most important part of the class. After all, if it's not, then we're talking about independent study. So, what does this mean? What's a flipped class? Doesn't change the hours, right? Still have 3 hours of face time. Flipping a class means taking some of the things that used to be done here and rotating them into independent instructor time and independent student time, right? So students used to do things as homework, and now they do it in class. So instead of grading the homework outside, the instructor's doing formative assessment on, right? However it's working, the same outcome, same amount of time. We're just changing what is counting as instructor-directed teaching. A hybrid class is a class that has the same outcomes, same contact hours, but now some of that instructor-directed teaching is happening online, right? So I know hybrid instructors and deans and are really struggling with, what does this mean? What does it mean to do instructor-directed teaching in a hybrid class? It has to be more than a supplement, right? It has to be more than a place to dump homework. It has to have teaching. And so what does that mean? Well, I think hybrid instructors are going to be looking to us. They're going to be looking to instructional designers. They're going to be looking to online coaches to tell us, well, in a hybrid class, if 50%, if I have a 50-50 hybrid, half of my teaching has to be online, they're rightfully going to look to online teachers to say, well, you do all of your teaching online. So what does it mean to you? What is online teaching? And how is that different from independent instructor work? Now, why do I think this is critical? Because this is where the engagement and instructor presence happens, right? This is where teachers capture the teachable moment. This is where students experience presence. This is where students experience that someone cares about them, all the things that we know that students enjoy and find great about online classes. And it's also the things that instructors find great about online classes. I'm preaching to the choir. So if you want my advice on what I think we should do with this online instructor certification training, as an outgoing online person, I'm going to say, in my view, we should tailor this course to online and or hybrid instructors, prospective online instructors, current hybrid instructors. More than half of our current hybrid instructors have never been trained in online teaching. How the heck they're supposed to teach a hybrid, not understanding anything about teaching online, makes no sense to me. In fact, I have a feeling that the deans are going to get really worried about this between now and our accreditation. And you may have literally hundreds of current instructors and faculty knocking on your door saying, I need help, I need to be trained. We're now being required to actually teach online in our hybrid classes. What does that mean? We need help to do it. My argument is, even if your class is only 25% online, there's no part of online instructor certification training that you don't need, right? There's no 25% that helps you teach. You need all of it, even if you're only teaching a portion of your class online. So that's where I think we should focus this course, not just on this, but on the reality of what does it mean to teach online? And of course, this has implications for that workload, right? Because I know some instructors are probably requiring an insufficient amount, where we would be failing our accreditation because there's not 10 to 12 hours of work for a student each week. And other classes may have way too much work, and that's also wrong. I'm obviously at 13 minutes. I'm going to close out the screencast, but I think the course is great now. I guess my other advice would be, what would it look like if there was one instructor? If there was one consistent design, one set of outcomes, I don't know that we would need one instructor, but I think it's a great time to look at this course and decide what you want it to be. All right, thanks.